The conversation yesterday, and we promised we're going to look into the other core subjects. So he's joined us this morning to tell us the chief examiner's report on those core subjects. John Kapi, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning, and thanks for having me.
Great. So yesterday we started a conversation. We've talked about mathematics. We know what the challenges were, but the challenges with mathematics also raised other concerns. The understanding, comprehension of these students. So let's start off with English, for instance, because many have sent us messages. They've asked a question: how did they pass the English? What were the observations of the chief examiner? Share them with us.
Right. So with the English language, the chief examiners were clear about the fact that the candidates were able to select the right essays to write on, and then they were also able to follow the rubrics, especially. Basically, with English language, if your essays are good, because they indicate also that among the strengths of the candidates, they were able to organize their essays very well, and then they're also able to comprehend the passages and then to provide appropriate responses for them.
What were their weaknesses?
Well, the weaknesses they list include poor stock of vocabulary. For English language too, they reported that most candidates face challenges in their use of appropriate vocabulary to express themselves, especially in the session where they were to provide appropriate synonyms for listed words from the passage. They also indicated that there was a poor use of language. And then the final one was the poor analysis of the texts that were made available to them.
Okay, so let's go over the weaknesses again.
So the poor stock of vocabulary. So reported that most of the candidates faced challenges in their use of appropriate vocabulary to express themselves, especially in the setting where they were to provide synonyms for listed words in the passage.
Okay, then the second one.
They also talked about the poor use of language. Even though they would know the plot or they have an idea about what to write, the sequence of sentences is sometimes not coherent.
Okay.
And then the third one, this was very, very important, says there was also the issue of the usage of social media diction and pidgin in English language.
Tell us more about that.
Well, when we are communicating amongst ourselves, I want to say, I know, right? So I just write IKR. You understand that. I also understand that. So that is a kind of slang, if you want. We wouldn't want to use that in standard language, And then also there are some of the expressions that we are used in daily life situations that in our conversations, and we understand what they are. But when it comes to standard language, you are not allowed to go into that area.
Okay, so are these all the weaknesses?
Yeah, so this is just a summary. We are yet to get a detailed chief examiner's report, and when we get that one, we'll be able to give more details as to how the candidates performed.
Okay, so they had concerns with their vocabulary, the fact that they didn't know a lot of them, then poor use of language, then usage of social media language and diction. Okay, let's get to another subject, social studies. What did the chief examiner say?
Social studies, they indicated that their strengths included that they demonstrated excellent understanding of the Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs theory and how it could be applied to the lives of students. They were able to point out also the influence of Western formal education on social outlook of the Ghanaian society. They were able to explain how rapid population growth adversely affects the physical environment. And they were able to discuss measures an individual could adopt to better his or her socio-economic life in Ghana. These are their strengths.
Okay.
Now, the weaknesses they list include that candidates were unable to express how expensive funerals adversely affect the development of the Ghanaian society.
Okay.
They were also unable to answer questions on policies implemented by the government of Ghana to better the lives of the people. And the third one, they could not sufficiently describe the forms of cooperation Ghana has with the United Nations organization.
I see. Interesting. They could not, talk about the policies being implemented by government to better the lives of the people.
Yeah, so that's what they indicated.
I see. And they couldn't also talk more about Ghana's cooperation with the United Nations.
Yeah, that's what they indicated. Yeah.
Okay. Finally, let's talk about integrated science.
So integrated science, they indicated that the candidates were poor in definition of relative atomic mass. They could not also do graph work and calculate the slope of a graph. There was wrong spelling of key scientific terminologies. They could not draw a bar magnet and lines of force. Then they had difficulty describing post-harvest practices such as winnowing, dehusking, and shelling. And then they had difficulty also with reagents for testing foods in the laboratory. And finally, they had problems with drawing of genetic diagrams. These are the summaries that they provided for the weaknesses exhibited by the candidates in the science paper.
Please go through them again.
So one, they were poor in defining relative atomic mass. Then they could not calculate the slope of a graph properly. There was also wrong spelling of key scientific terminologies. Then they could not draw a bar magnet and lines of force. Then they could not describe post-harvest practices such as winnowing, dehusking, and shelling. And then they could not also describe reagents for testing foods in the laboratory. And finally, they had difficulty drawing genetic diagrams.
Interesting. What were their strengths?
For their strengths, they said that they were able to talk about exotic breeds and their advantages, energy transformation, the mole concept, and definition of standard solution. They could also talk very well about advantages of parallel wiring in homes. Then they talked about the challenges of pig production in Ghana. And finally, they were able to talk about the significance of the stages of water treatment for public consumption.
Great. I want us to go back to the mathematics issue and briefly look at their strength, because yesterday our focus was on their weaknesses. What did the chief examiner identify as their strength?
So they indicated that they were good at the application of the midpoint concept to solve problems. And then two, solving problems on mensuration. Three, solving simple problems on average speed. And then finally, finding distance of a line when given 2 points.
Okay. Well, John Kapi, we're very grateful that we're having this conversation. But let's just go through the math strength again, finally.
Okay, the math strength, they talked about application of the midpoint concept to solve problems. Two, solving problems on mensuration. And three, solving simple problems on average speed. And then four, finding distance of a line when given 2 points.
Okay. Okay.
So let me just add that these are summaries, the detailed report on the answers provided for each question, and then what the candidate were expected to write would also come out in due course.
Interesting. And you know, when it comes to the social studies, we saw a reduction in the rate of pass by about 20%. And so it was one area that people had a lot of concerns. And you say that their weaknesses, they could not talk about the policies implemented by government to better the lives of the people. They also struggled with, Ghana's cooperation with within the United Nations space. And what else?
They talked also about the inability to talk about the adverse effects of expensive funerals on the development of the Ghanaian society.
Okay. John Kapi, we're very grateful. We'll wait for the final report because we need to understand, what these challenges are. But we're grateful that you've made time to, speak to us and share these findings with us. Do have a lovely day.
You too. It's my pleasure.
Okay, so that's John Kapi, Kojo Yangsing, and Kojo Boateng. I know Kojo Boateng will be interested in social studies, the adverse effects of expensive funerals. They couldn't talk about that. They also couldn't talk about the policies being implemented by government to positively impact the lives of the people or better the lives of the people, like we would say. When it comes to science, they got some of the key terminology spelled wrongly. They were poor in the calculation of a slope of a graph. When a difficulty in post-harvest discussions. I don't know.
The bit about the government policies and their impact on our lives.
Yeah.
We always say, he who feels it knows it more.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe these kids, WASSCE, by the time you're writing WASSCE, you'll be around 17, 18, 19.
Some actually 15 these days.
Yes. Now, at 15, if government policies are making your life better, you know. And if you feel it, you can really write about it. So maybe they are not feeling it. Maybe it's feedback to government. If you are feeling it, you would write about it. We do not expect the children to give us theoretical, made-up answers. Sometimes we should expect them to share their reality with us. So if you ask them to tell you, say, Winston, give me one government policy, or could you give me one government policy, and let's form a question and expect a 15-year-old to answer. So explain how the government in Kokon Ketinkete has. This one, it's not will make our lives better, has made our lives better. And this child still buys jollof on the streets, and every time the price goes up and the meat probably reduces. What do you expect them to write?
Well, that may be a factor. I do know that, especially here in Ghana, students at WASSCE level, in their exams, they write what they've been taught or what they remember of what they've been taught.
Sometimes the brain just switches and tells you the truth.
Yes, which is why I concede that may be a factor.
They went through school. There were a lot of schools which didn't have food at the time they needed food. Which is why I concede that may be a factor. But I think that we are quite aware of the trend of exam writers in Ghana to write what they remember, right? They try and chew things and come and pour them, and so when you read this list of difficulty areas in these 4 core subjects, the thing that is standing out for me is just how much of these difficulties have to do with expression and comprehension. Yeah.
Just how much of them circle around these 2 things. Which suggests to me that we may have quite a large number of these kids who struggled with these areas who didn't struggle because they don't know them, but struggle because they can't express them, or struggle because they didn't understand the questions, which means we still have a language issue. And it is something very important to look at if we want to see, if we want to improve next year. If we want to find one area to work on so that next year's cohorts have a better chance, maybe we should look at expression and comprehension. Because so many of these examples revolve around that. That's my observation.
Well, so I look at the challenges with English language, and there are concerns with their vocabulary. The fact that they realize that what we normally would call the use of register is something that students struggled with. Using different words to describe situations, and I would say that every developed language has a kind of register that enables students or enables its users to use different words to express different situations, or probably use different words to express a single situation. So that in itself is a problem, because then what it tells us is that these students are not improving. They're not learning new things. They're not learning how to express themselves.
Expression.
Because if you learn new words, you'd know that, okay, I could probably express myself this way and communicate the same thing. But it even becomes instructive when it talks about the poor use of language.
Comprehension.
So while the heading comprehension is easy, I would explain. So we have, as part of the English examination, there's a part that says comprehension. You're giving a passage, and in that passage you're asked questions. So while students may do well, it doesn't necessarily mean that many of these students comprehend what is being written. That's not a determiner, a sole determiner of that. Then there's a talk about social media language and diction.
Also an expression problem.
Exactly.
Charlie, there's this Gen Z boy I work with. When somebody says something funny, what do? You laugh, right?
Yeah.
He will say, "Atie," and keep a straight face.
What's that?
Atie means I'm laughing.
Oh, really?
Yes. Then there was a day we saw something and say, Charlie, he ate it. You know somebody had eaten food. Just say, I cannot dress it. Charlie, was funny.
Aaron.
Whilst we will say you
Aaron,
buff or you shudder, he say he ate. He
ate.
Yeah.
But you see, that's what the problems are.
So Atie.
Because anyway, no, but you see, we and I say this thing all the time, that it's important also that continuous development. So as teachers and everything, we must not end up believing that what we learned in the past is okay.
Yeah.
And the moment we change the syllabus, then that's the end of it. Because look, what you're just telling me convinces me that that student who is going to, so that's what he knows. It's become a part of him. Once it becomes a part of him, the vocabulary you are talking about, that's what he knows. So he would actually reproduce it to you, believing that you know.
And the content and their lifestyles largely also limits them to a small space, right? When we were younger, we would walk to school. Friends would go ride bicycles. We'd go and chase game in the bush. We did stuff. But these days what happens, especially those in the urban areas, if you're lucky and your parents have a car, it means that from home to the office, to school, you are confined in that small space. You get to school, you're closed, you are picked, you are taken home, tablets, just in the confines of your space, right? That is one. Those in the rural areas, unfortunately, life is largely the same. So their education must largely be in the classroom, and they don't have enough. They don't have enough teachers. They don't have enough teaching and learning materials, so they are limited. We really need to look at how we are building our societies, all right? We really need to look at how we are investing in education. And you've touched on the English, and Kojo has touched on the social studies. I will touch on the mathematics and the science. Okay? And science and maths should be treated as everyday things, and they should be made as practical as possible, because we are talking about how students integrated science, how students could not describe reagents for food testing, okay, how they could not draw a bar magnet and lines of force. They didn't understand simple things like post-harvest practices, winnowing, shelling. These are everyday practical things, okay. These are everyday practical things, and I would like to see the trend, the people in the rural areas and the people in the urban areas, when it comes to this winnowing and shelling and post-harvest practices. For example, if you lived in Tumu, Fentus Tumu, and you don't understand any of these post-harvest practices, then we have failed, because it's an experience they go through every day anyway. But you've not been able to let them know the practical context of what they do in the academic sense, then we would have failed. If you learn redox reactions, for example, and you cannot determine some of these, oxidation and reduction, cleaning, using of bleach. If you use bleach to clean, it's a redox reaction has occurred. If you peel, say, coconuts, and then the fiber starts to turn brown, oxidation is occurring. If we are unable to use everyday examples to teach the people, they won't get it. If it's all about the chew pour, and if you don't practicalize science, okay, and if you don't practicalize mathematics, people won't get it.
Kojo, I support you 100% on this. I remember when Fifi was in nursery school in England. Nursery school. He was 3 years old. And the Olympics were being held in London. And we were watching TV. And there was shot put. And this guy came up to the plate or whatever they call it, put the thing to his neck, spun around through it, and my 3-year-old son said centrifugal force.
Exactly.
And I said, Jesus Christ. When I went to his classroom, I realized that they had placed pictures all around the classroom of Olympics, and they were using the Olympics to teach maths, English, every subject. They would use the Olympics as the context for it.
Yeah.
So you want to teach children, and these are 3-year-olds. So all they are doing is chatting about the Olympics in the classroom with the teacher.
Yeah.
And in the conversation, the teacher is introducing principles.
And this example, you go to Tamale, for example, you see their traditional dance. They stand next to each other and they go around. You can use it to teach the solar system.
You see
how the planets move around the sun.
So all you have to do is make it real.
Yeah.
Just make it real. Have conversations with them about real things that illustrate the principle. We are too interested in education being book. Education equals book. But education equals life.
If C. Ronaldo is coming to hit a ball, like penalty, and the ball is at the penalty spot, the ball is not moving, potential energy. The moment he hits it, kinetic energy, then sui.
You know, when
you see, all you have to do is just place whatever you are teaching in the context of real life. First of all, it makes the kids excited, because you are talking about something they know and can see and can relate to.
Exactly.
And more importantly, it means that it opens their potential. A child will never think maths is difficult if maths is always discussing something he likes.
You've actually made very valid points. When we return after these messages, I'm going to share with you, something that happened to us while we were in level 400.
Teacher Kofi.
No, studying English. Now, it was at that point.
Back in the days of Pharaoh.
Yes, back in the days of Pharaoh.
Well, no, this was at the University of Cape Coast.
When Moses was negotiating.
It was at that point that I said to myself, so this is what they've been trying to teach us in secondary school.